All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Anabel Hernandez Mejia, and I am a community engagement specialist. As people are coming in and getting settled, I'll just review the agenda before we formally get started. And hopefully by the time we come around to that, everybody will be ready to really kind of dive in and with everything we're going to be sharing, well, as far as questions, and then definitely more than anything, we want to learn from you all who are out there and definitely the experts on all this. So we're going to be doing an overview of the budget process. We'll move into a bit of shelter overview on that, and we'll allow for a few questions if there are any regarding both budget process and shelter. But we really want to set most of the time and dedication to the breakout rooms, which is where we'll go through and really listen to what all you have to share with us. So again, all the breakout rooms will have the same set of questions. We're just kind of trying to set everybody else in the kind of by how you identify, and hoping that, maybe there's things that come up that are relevant to each group that way. I'll give instructions further later on that. And then once we're done with the breakout rooms, we will come back to the main room and we will share some highlights of what it is that we heard in each room and share the following steps of what will be coming right after, at least on us, what will be next. And before we get started, I do also want to review our agreements. Sarah, if you could share those. So these agreements are more of an internal agreements for us, and we really welcome and accept the being held accountable on these. There we go. So our agreements are to foster an inclusive environment. So we really, when we are in the breakout rooms, we are going to definitely seek to keep engaged. We are wanting you to, and everybody, to speak their truth responsibly, listen to understand. Again, really wanting you to hold us accountable to these. We're also wanting and willing to do things differently and experience discomfort, and also expect and accept non-closure. I think, again, these are internal agreements that OHCS has, and we definitely invite you to hold us accountable towards these as we do this engagement, and really want to hear from you. I want to definitely expand on the expect and accept non-closure. We won't be able to resolve all of the things that come up today, but we really want to remain committed into being able to listen to you and take those pieces to then move forward all of the work that we are wanting to do together. Without further ado, I will pass it on to Andrea to give you all a welcome and review the budget process.
Yeah, well, wonderful. Thank you, Annabelle. Good morning, everybody. Andrea Bell, your Executive Director here at Oregon Housing and Community Services. I use she, her pronouns. First off, thanks for making some time for us. It is 8:30 in the morning. I know your mornings, your days are commitment filled, and the fact that you chose to prioritize spending a little bit of your day with us means so much. And so I want to just extend a very true sense of gratitude and appreciation for that. And my intention is to make good use of our collective time here together. And so I want to just acknowledge and lift each of you up for making some time with us today. OHCS, we are in a season where we are beginning to build our 25-27 budget. So this budget build, like our previous budget builds, have always included different degrees of engagement. And we have found that our partners across the state doing this work, facilitating the process on the ground every single day, have always served as really valuable thought partners and experts as we are building this budget. Our intention is that this budget build and both the process by which we get there together is reflective of our shared values to the people of Oregon. And in that, also making sure that we are continuing to deliver measurable and transparent outcomes in a way that hopes to make everyday life a little bit easier for the people that we serve. As those of you that are experts in your own right in operating shelters, supporting shelters in your community, you are in the front line in a different way that the state just simply is not. And so as we are pursuing that progress, candidly, we need your expertise. We want to make sure that the how we're thinking about and approaching this budget and all its manifestations have the opportunity for your brilliance to really help shape and inform that. And that is the intention of the space today. I know over the last year, we have spent a lot of time with many of you. Hopefully you're not too tired of us yet. And we also know that we have because of you, because of the partnership, have been able to make some real strides forward in some of the areas of that exist across the state when it comes to homelessness. We know that there's a lot of folks across the state that go to bed every single night and wake up every single morning with that reality top of mind and with that experience. And we also know that the ultimate measure of our shared progress is how people are doing in communities. And so we are grateful to have your continued partnership in this, right? Annabelle mentioned at the top some group agreements. We were not going to spend a whole lot of time on those, but we want to acknowledge what we hope that you will hold us to and what our shared commitments to you all as partners in this. Now, even though we have received an increase in resources, particularly over the last year, we also know that much of that has been one time in nature. And so we want to be able to really dig in and get your expertise and get your understanding as we're building the budget. Just to make sure that we have your prism of thinking in the process that we are pursuing. And of course, we are engaging in this process in very close partnership with the governor's office. The 25-27 budget bill process really serves as a reflection and in alignment with the governor's priorities, which remain really focused. So I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for the time. We hope that this time is productive and useful for you. The team is going to seek to cover a lot of things during the time, and a lot of it is going to be really based in listening and getting your feedback. But of course, today and always, don't be shy about posing questions, and we'll make sure that we have some time to continue to be in conversation with you. So thanks for spending some time, and I'll turn it back to the team and we'll get into our time today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Director Bell. Jump back in here. My name is Mike Tavara. I use he and his pronouns. I'm the Special Initiatives Director. As Director Bell was kind of talking about this big overview of the entire budget process, we wanted to set a time, some time today to really dig in specifically around shelter. You all are here because you're experts at this work. You might be a service provider and you're running shelters every single day, or maybe you're a local government official and you're helping think about the strategies and needs for your local community. You might run a COC. Maybe you're running one of the 8 continuums of care, and you have seen the importance of building this system over the last few years. And you're really wanting to make sure that as we move forward into that 25-27, you're giving us that feedback. That's what we want today. And so that's really why we're here. We want to listen to you. We want to understand your perspectives around the policies and decisions that really matter as it relates to how shelter works in the state of Oregon. I wanted to share just a quick few kind of overviews of like where we've been. So we've really seen our state, continue to lag behind in the rate of shelters compared to how much the need is. We know that in the 2023 point in time count, which definitely is always an undercount in so many ways, recorded 20,110 people experiencing homelessness across Oregon. 13,000 of those folks were unsheltered and 7,100 were sheltered. So we know we are not meeting our overall shelter needs. That was before the governor's executive order on unsheltered homelessness. And we know we've made some strides. We've been able to accomplish a lot of amazing work together over the last year and a half in making sure that we're closing that gap and we're providing more resources. We know that we created over 1,000 shelter beds, 1,047 new shelter beds under Governor Kotek's executive order in a very short period of time. That's just in the executive order region. We also know that in the balance of state, we've been able to create over 200 new shelter beds just since October, being able to provide those executive order resources throughout the 26 rural counties across the rural Oregon continuum of care. So we're making these strides, and we're making those investments that are really building our system. We also were able to stabilize over 2,475 shelter beds across the state, making sure that we didn't lose additional beds that had operational deficits this last winter. We have more work to do, and the legislature has tasked us with providing additional resources for the rest of this biennium that I know many of you are actively working on. You're working on trying to find the right amount of resources you need for your community to keep more shelters going and operational. We're deploying another $65 million right now, and over the next week and a half, if you're a continuum of care or a MAC group or a local planning group, you're probably engaging with us on that very conversation, and you're waiting eagerly for more information and an update on that information. We know that's critical, and we're working to make sure that we're focused on this biennium, but also starting to think about next biennium and that future needs and those future systems that we're trying to build together. So we're making incredible improvements, we're making incredible strides, and we know there's more work to do. We also know that the shelter system is a part of the larger whole. We see that the disparities that exist in the larger homeless services system for especially communities of color, but also families and youth who aren't accessing the system and aren't able to reach those services that they need, continues to be a really critical need across the state. And we're eager to dig in and support how we can build a system that's not only the right scale, but also one that's efficient and supportive of all communities across Oregon. So we're very appreciative of your time this morning. I want to make sure we can kind of dig into the specifics of today's work. We're going to spend a lot of time today in breakout sessions. And so I'm going to pass it over and actually see if there's any questions first. And Annabelle, if you want to kind of facilitate a little bit there, that'd be great. But any questions on sort of the big picture overview before we dive into the actual activity and break out into those breakout sessions?
And you can either come off mute or type in. We'll allow for up to a few questions. We, again, like Mai said, we want to spend the majority of the time being able to hear from you. But if we don't, we can most definitely continue. As you see, we have a fairly large group here, and we want to make opportunity for being able to hear them, as many as you. So we will be breaking off into 3 breakout rooms. And we know that some of you fall in more than one category that I will be listing shortly, but with that, I do also want to say, go with the group that you most identify with. For example, group 1 is going to be local government. The second one will be CAAs, COCs, and the LPGs. Again, we already know that there will be some overlap. And with room number 3, it will be service providers that have not been listed above. But before we go on there, I do want to share, we want to provide, again, as many opportunities for you all to be able to share with us. With that, you'll be able to either come off mute in the rooms and, give your feedback. You'll be able to share in the comments, and also we will have an idea boards. Idea boards is fairly simple. There will be, we will share the link in the chat rooms or in the group chats of the breakout rooms. And then you'll be able to, once you open that up, you'll be able to click on a little green plus sign, and that will allow you to respond on there. One of the things I also want to mention about the idea boards, and the reason we went for that, is if there is something that might be a little bit controversial maybe, or that is not a popular opinion, it provides an option to be able to give feedback in an anonymous, I cannot speak this morning. I need another coffee. Anonymous form. Ethan, before I continue, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, thanks. Ethan Nelson, City of Eugene, he, him pronouns. I was just wondering, I was looking at the materials that you'd sent on out regarding just the shelter town hall and the breakout rooms. Are all 3 breakout rooms going to be answering and discussing that whole set of questions?
Yes.
Great. And then we'll all come back on here. It says breakout room summary and highlights. And so I'm assuming that we'll all come back and share those pieces.
Yes, we'll do a quick summary. We are not planning on spending too much time, but we want to reiterate some of the things, whether it be something that stood out or common themes within the groups, to make sure that we're understanding what it is that what you're wanting to say. We don't want to potentially interpret something in a wrong direction. So it's a little bit of feedback in that sense.
Okay, if I might, I make the recommendation that one of the experiences that local governments have had over the course of time is a disjointed engagement, and that I think that continuing to kind of have groups talk amongst themselves and then come back and not have the opportunity to really articulate how integrated we need to be. And really, if we're looking at the next legislative session, is really trying to put together a more comprehensive approach, that having time to do that, if it's not today, really helping participants and stakeholders know when that is going to happen, and when going back to the operating agreements is creating an inclusive environment. And so I think that's something that we're really interested in as local governments. Thanks.
Thank you, Ethan. I greatly appreciate that. And yes, sometimes I think we get into the weeds of the work and there are little things that will slip our minds. So I do appreciate you sharing that out. And just doing a quick check. Do we have any other hands or questions that came in chat? All right. Sounds good. So for the breakout rooms, again, there'll be an option if you haven't gone in the bottom right-hand corner, and you'll just go ahead and choose your breakout room. I do want to emphasize all of this is being recorded, and these will be also shared out, at least for the breakout rooms. Right now, we'll also record them. We'll have note takers, and we will also be saving the comments and also the idea board. So again, feel free to share in the way that you feel most comfortable. And we are definitely taking into account and having multiple ways of being able to get that feedback. So without further ado, Sarah will break us out. And again, choose the room you most identify with, 1 being local government, 2 CAAs, COCs, and LPGs, or the local planning groups, and then 3 service providers that have not been listed in any of the above.
Oh, hi, folks. People will start just trickling back into the main room, and then the facilitator, I think, will be going over all of the discussion. So it might just be just a moment, and everyone should be back in the room.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, we were finishing last bit on our room. I hope there were some really good discussions. Yeah, we're wanting to kind of do a quick summary of at least what it is that we heard in each of the rooms. Mike, would you like to start?
Yeah, of course, thanks. So yeah, I was part of the local government shelter breakout room. We had a very robust conversation just about all over the place. We had some really good discussions about outcomes. All of the local government folks gave such kudos to every one of the service providers across the state. So I just want to name that, like, your local governments have so much respect for the amazing work that you do. If you're a service provider in this room, they just kept going back to this notion that the service providers know what to do. Get out of the way and let them do what they're going to do, which I just really appreciated. And really just it's so true, just having the experience of working hand in hand with people experiencing homelessness. You learn so much about what they need and how to support folks moving forward. Another big area of discussion we had was just around like the funding system. And so really thinking about, okay, how do we get money from the state down into a local community to fund a shelter, to make sure the shelter works, to make sure that there's consistent, ongoing, continued service level funding available, and that service providers aren't constantly worrying on, I think someone said it on June 20th, is there going to be money on July 1st? And I know I'm looking around the room, I see many faces. I know you've experienced that to a very, very, chaotic and stressful degree where you're not sure if you're going to be able to keep the lights on 10 days from now, because the state hasn't rolled out dollars or hasn't done something to make sure that that's going to happen. So that was that one really hit for me, just knowing the experience of so many of the folks I work with across the state and how that is so stressful and not knowing what's going to happen next. I think another piece that we talked about is just the role of like counties versus cities, and how so many cities are so involved in this work, and so many counties are deeply connected to the work, maybe as a COC or as a local planning group lead. So just a lot of discussion about that. I think I'll leave with this, just one piece of kind of the overall notion I think that everyone agreed on was just that we need to do more of these conversations. That like, this is a great start. We're having this conversation today, but really like in order to build that framework, build that system and that shelter system we want in the future, we need to be able to have these ongoing conversations with all the different stakeholders in a really intentional way. And so just a big piece of that is, more engagement, more intentional engagement was a big notion that folks brought forward too.
All right, thank you, Mike. And Kaylin, do you want to
Yes,
go
thank
ahead and
you.
share from your room? Thanks.
I was with the shelter providers and anybody else who was not local government or some kind of regional planning body. Great conversations, especially around different outcomes or metrics we can measure. There was a lot of interest in being able to measure more quality rather than quantity, that quantity alone doesn't tell enough of the story. It was interesting ideas about ways we could maybe even have an individual themselves figure out like, what does success look like for them? And then how can we measure if they reach that success and bring that instead of just like from an individual shelter level to like the system. Just trying to get creative with what we're asking for. But then on the other end, we also need to be consistent, make sure money gets out the door more regularly, that it's more predictable, and that so many different funding sources have different requirements. Not everything is paid for, like audits or training. So trying to help either streamline and get as many of the different funding sources to have the same requirements, or maybe even the state providing places people can go for training, things like that. Also heard that your staff is very important to you and that you want to be able to pay them living wages and mental health benefits. So ways that we can help with that. The admin costs are too low, and that there's really desire to have more alternative shelter models prioritized, funded, and that there should be a recognition that different types are better for each person. Like I might be better served at a tiny house village than I would a congregate shelter, but somebody else may be the opposite. And that a diversity of those as well. And if people are moved from one shelter type to another one, that can be good. That doesn't necessarily mean something wrong has happened. That was just tip of the iceberg. Annabelle, what did you hear?
Thank you. And so I had more of the regional groups, CAAs, from COCs and local planning groups. Very much the same, Kaylin, the care and the need for staff. One of the things that came up and is just a highlight for me on the staffing side is, and again, on top of like the living wages and being able to actually pay them and appreciate them for their work that is needed, but in the hiring piece of those with lived experience. But one of the issues there is sometimes they don't pass background checks. And so what can we do in being able to offer maybe a different set of requirements because of that? And the thing about it is, and one of the issues there is those that can pass those background checks sometimes and very many times are not going to be able to relate to those that we are serving in the same capacity and the same manners. And so something I really wanted to bring back for sure. Again, a lot of appreciation and being able to coordinate with not only service providers, with other partners. And I thought it was interesting because, you know, again, it does also make sense for different regions. Different things will pop up where, for instance, one will have a definitely really good relationships in having a partnership in really coordinating a lot of the work so that they're both doing the best in what it is that they're good at. And then other regions wanting to get there, but not necessarily having those pieces in play. And the request for the state being able to support in some of those pieces that are, whether it be common across the board, for example, training of staff, so that that can release some of these groups of being able to, you know, having to figure that all themselves, but also that they get the same type of quality training as well. And then also for being able to potentially incentivize the coordinations when the applications are sent in. So instead of there being a competition for applications and being able to get funds, really incentivizing coordination and organizations that are already working together. And so that hopefully we can really be guiding others in other regions to be working in that kind of same coordinated way. And so again, much appreciation to everyone for having shared. We do have the idea boards. We don't have a set time for being able to close them at this moment, but we will try to leave them open for about a week and give you as much time as possible in being able to send in additional comments and thoughts in there. Want to follow up that in about a week from today, or within a week, there will be a survey that gets sent out. This will be a survey that will not only be sent out to those that were able to attend today, but also for everybody who was not able to, and it will have similar questions and then top a little bit different to be able to again support some of this information that we're really wanting to get from you and being able to improve these processes and make things easier and as the way we kind of coordinate ourselves. And definitely heard loud and clear, and Mike, I heard it from your room too. The more spaces we can make for this kind of coordination, and instead of kind of being siloed every single time, loud and clear. So we've got those down. And one of the other things that will be going out, so with the survey will be a link to the main room video. So watch for those in your email links. And then other than that, I want to say thank you. We are at time, and I really appreciate all of your input again. Have a wonderful day.